Good morning, and we're going to start class off this morning with some announcements. So I have a couple of very, very important things. First of all, this Thursday, the 9th, from 9 to 11, you're not going to be able to get into your Jenzabar. The reason is because we have two systems that you guys know you have evolved in Jenzabar, but for us, it's a bunch of different systems. So we're beginning to merge our systems together where we only need to use one. So in order for our tech team, our IT team to get that together, they're going to have to change your usernames. Your passwords will stay the same, and each individual person will get an email with that update, except for Mariah Smith. Mariah is not on our call, but Mariah was a re-entry, and so she got hers updated at the time. So I'm going to repeat that one more time. Thursday from 9 to 11, you will not be able to get into your Jenzabar. As soon as IT is finished updating passwords, they will send you an individual email to let you know, username, not password. They will send you an email with your new username. Your password will stay the same. New username, password the same, okay? 9 to 11 on Thursday. Everybody, okay. Was that clear?
Morning or night?
Morning. Morning. Okay, the second thing that I want to talk about is we were talking a little bit before we pushed record about studying. I am not pointing fingers. I am not calling anybody out on this, but test scores were not what I'm used to seeing. I know that when we were doing coding, we got into that rhythm and we knew how to study and what to study, right? Well, with this, again, there's a little bit of a learning curve where you're needing to understand what information do I need to know. Now, I think some of you overthought it because if you watch the Zoom call from Thursday, I actually went over most of the tests in the Zoom call. So, and then those of you that were in the Zoom call or watched the Zoom, you probably overthought everything, right? Don't overthink things. Just like we did when we were coding, look for the key words in our questions, okay? It's a different kind of test than what we're used to. So it's all right. How do you study? Well, everybody studies so differently, okay? When I tell you, pay attention, listen closely, here it comes again, key terms. Y'all, you gotta know your key terms. You really do. And you're online. If you don't know what it is, stop and look it up. I would rather you stop your test and say, I do not know what a copay is. I need to stop and look at it right now. Because you know why? You're going to know it after that point. Because you've taken a moment out of something that all of you take very seriously. Y'all, I am so proud of how seriously each one of you are taking your education. It is, I'm telling you, it is top notch. So when you stop to make sure you know the information, it just means you're solidifying it in your brain and you're not going to forget it. So I want you to take your time. I feel like sometimes that we go through our modules so quickly. This is just a 20-day module. We went through a 40-day module just a couple of times ago, and it still went by really, really fast. Sometimes we feel like we're on a train and we're just moving. But what you guys have to do in order to get prepared is you have to actually stop that train and spend some time in each thing instead of just barrel. This is not like coding where it's you learn how to do it and it's the same thing over and over again. This is not like that. So this is a great time to improve study habits. It's a great time to learn how to take notes. It's a great time to just vamp up the way that you look at your information. I know y'all don't have paper books, but I outline everything. And just to tell you how much I still outline, I just threw away 2 5-inch binders full of outlines that I made from the curriculum because I study with you guys. Sometimes I have been terrible lately. I usually reserve an hour a day for study for me because I feel like I don't get enough time and everything to know everything. Okay, so who has had trouble navigating their SIM chart? Anybody? Well, I know some of us are having trouble, maybe not you guys that are here with me in class, but some of our classmates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and we're actually going to get into SIM charting. I want to remind you before we do that. What are we doing? We're doing simulation playground. What do you do on a playground?
Play.
You play. You can't mess it up. It is actually, if you see a button, you don't know what it is, click on it and find out. That's the great thing about the playground. You can get in it and do anything and everything. I'm going to show you, I'm going to be going over, I'm going to share my screen. I hate sharing my screen because then I can't see y'all, but I have to. So I'm going to share my screen. And what we're actually going to be doing together is the chapter review. Today in lab, it's EHR in review is what it is, and it's actually your lab assignment. So we're just going to talk about that, and I'm going to tell you how to find the information. So let me share my screen. If you guys, if I'm going too fast or we have a question, please don't holler, but you know what I mean, say something so that I can stop and come back and we can talk about it. But I'm going to try to go as slow as possible, all right? So here we go. Get out of the way. Okay, so this is actually what we're doing. It's EHR in review, and that's your lab today. And we're only going to do these two particular questions. So it says complete the following exercise based on content previously covered in chapters 1 and 2. We've been learning how to do SIM charting. So this is what our task is. Mr. Tran has picked up another insurance plan. MetLife Insurance will now be his secondary insurance. The payer will be Aetna, will still remain his primary. Add this new insurance carrier to Truong's record. So now he has MetLife, and this is all of his information. So how do we put that information into SIM charting? Well, let me launch our SIMS chart. Remember, mine looks a little different than yours, okay? Okay, what are we doing here? Hang on, y'all. You guys don't have this on yours, but anyway, so I'm going to move you over here. So I'm going into my simulation playground. Now, I don't know if when you guys go to get in your simulation playground, it gives you two choices. It says return to previous sessions with saved patient information or start a new simulation. If you go to something that you've saved, you get to return to it here if you want to go back and add something. If you want to do something totally new, then you start something new. I'm just going to start something new. So we have to add Mr. Truong's secondary insurance. So where are we going to find Mr. Truong to update his demographics is what it's called. So I'm going to go into, now we're in the office, you can make appointments here and all these little things here. So I'm going to go into patient demographics. You can do last name and that's it, or you can do the birth date. So let's get into him. So I'm going to search an existing patient and he comes up, Truong Tran. So see where it's highlighted in blue? That's where I'm going to click. But if you look here, it says add patient. This patient is already in our system. We don't need to add him. He's already there. What we're doing, what they're asking us to do is simply update him, right? So we're updating demographics. So I'm just going to click here. And this is where it comes. It gives us 3 tabs. It says patient. This is our patient right here. And this is just his general information. Name, medical record number, date of birth, address. If you needed to change his emergency contact, it's right here. The next tab says guarantor. So if you click into guarantor, he's responsible for himself. There's other things here again that you can add. But what we want specifically is we need insurance, right? So we're going to click insurance. So we see that here, Aetna is his primary insurance. So this is where we would need to go to put in his secondary insurance. Now, if you were in an office and you know where they scan your little insurance cards in the little machine? See right here where it says upload insurance card? If you were in a real office, you would upload that insurance card because you've scanned it. Isn't that neat? That's how all that fits together. Irregardless if it looks exactly like this, the functions are going to be the same, okay? So once you get his information in, you're going to need to save it. So save patient. I'm not going to put anything in because that is your exercise to do. Before I go back, I'm going to come back around. Did that make sense?
A little bit.
A little bit. Kedra, do you
Yeah,
want me to
I'm
go back through? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's me actually talking, Miss Marsha. I have this thing on my head, still without lights and stuff, so I haven't even been able to really get into it because of the phone issue with the cookies, and I've gone into my settings to try to turn it off, but it's still not popping up. So
Oh, you're trying to do it in your phone?
yeah, trying
It's
to
not
be
going
able
to
to
allow you to do it in your phone.
Yeah.
Sims charting will not do in an iPhone. It has to be an iPad, and those are tricky, or a computer. So Kedra, if you'll stay on after with me, we can figure out how we can get you some assignments, whether it be me take a picture of them, and you know, we'll figure it out. Okay, so we'll stay on after we're done with class, and we'll get something figured out. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Marsha.
Now, yesterday when I tried to save it,
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't save. It didn't light up. So I don't know if you got it or you seen it when I did it on.
I can't see your simulation playground.
Okay. So if
And yeah, once we get into sim charting, I'll be able to see sim charting. But right now, the only thing that I'm worried about is y'all get in and get to know that. Not just get to know how to do it, but what are patient demographics? Does anybody know the meaning of a patient demographic? If you don't, find out, because it's important. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go back because I want to show you something else. Our assignment for tomorrow, your lab for tomorrow, it says practice composing. So what does that mean? So on it says compose a doctor referral letter, compose a patient letter, compose, let's see, it has all kinds of stuff. So do you think when you go into a doctor's office now, they expect for you to compose that from scratch?
no.
They do not. Right here on this side, it says form repository. Who's gotten into the form repository and looked? When y'all see, when you click form repository, I'm going to move y'all around. It says certificate to return to work or school, disclosure authorization, notice of privacy practices, all kinds of forms. Patient statement. Do you guys remember where we had patient statement was on the last exam, right?
Mm-hmm.
Patient statement. If you click office forms, there's going to be a bank deposit slip, incident report, inventory, petty cash journal, purchase order. There are so many things here. That's front office. If you go into clinical care and you do form repository, it's the same thing. So for a referral letter, where are you going to go? Referral. And look what it is. It's a referral letter. So the things that I'm asking you to do are not difficult. Go to your form repository. I'm trying to look to see what patient instructions for surgery is one of the other ones that I had. I don't think that's on here. I don't care if you go and you make your own.
Does it auto fill in the information or do we have to type in everything?
No, you have to type it in. Let's pull up something else. Let's see, disclosure authorization. You put the, well, watch. If I push patient search, say that Miss Yon, we want to use Yon, you select, and see it starts putting the information it can here. So if it's a patient that you already have, you guys can choose a patient that you already have to auto-populate. The point in this assignment is I just want you to get in and start digging and looking. Those of you who have not looked at the form repository, there's so many things. Y'all, it's really funny. Every time I say repository, I feel like I'm saying suppository. And so I want to laugh. I'm like a 9-year-old little boy. There's an advanced directive. There's just all kinds of things here that I want you to take a look at. See, if I tried to save this to the patient record, it says, hey, you haven't filled all of these in. So let's see. What else? Is there anything else you guys might like to see? Well, go in and look. I don't have to show it to you. You can go in and look. So, did you learn anything about sim charting that you weren't quite sure of?
Yes.
Okay, I'm saying this verbally. I gave a list of assignments to practice composing. If one of them, like for example, instructions for surgery, if you can't find anything on there, you can either make something on your own or choose a different form. I just want you to practice. I want you to practice is what I want you to do. Okay, any questions about that?
No.
Okay, so that's the first, number one in your EHR review. The second one is, what are the 4 main goals of the Meaningful Use program? Does anybody know anything about the Meaningful Use program? All right, well, I need you to make sure that you have some, Kelly?
Yeah, you got to improve, it's to improve quality, safety, efficiency, and reduce health disparities.
Right. Well, we're going to learn about 2 different things here, and we're going to do it in a little video, because if you guys don't have to listen to me talk about it, you get to see pictures and different things. To me, I like that better. But there's something here that I want you to take note of, because it will be on your NCCT. There are things on meaningful use, and there are things, and it's associated with the HITECH Act. So I'm going to actually show that video, but I want you to make note of what the HITECH Act is, okay? So let's go to that. It's not a very long video, so don't get nervous. I know sometimes they can be long. All right, get out of our way.
If you're like most doctors, you've probably heard something about a government incentive program encouraging physicians to implement electronic health records. However, you're probably a little fuzzy on the details. Well, you're not alone. Let's take a closer look and see if we can help you make sense of it all. On February 17th, 2009, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, also known as the stimulus package, was signed by President Obama into law. Contained within its pages is new legislation known as the Health Information Technology for Economic and Clinical Health Act. That's a mouthful, so we'll just call it the HITECH Act. So what exactly is the HITECH Act, and how does it affect you, a physician? Well, very simply, it uses financial incentives to encourage physicians to adopt certified electronic health records, or EHRs. Through the increased use of EHRs, the government hopes to achieve the goal of a national health information network that will result in improved quality of care, patient safety, and lower costs. What kind of financial incentives are we talking about here? Perhaps as much as $34 billion. So now you're probably asking yourself two questions. One, how do I qualify for this money? And two, just how much of that $34 billion is available to me? Well, the answers to both of these questions are actually quite simple. To qualify for a piece of the high-tech money, there are two things you will need to do. First, your practice must purchase and use a government-certified EHR. Secondly, your practice will need to demonstrate meaningful use of this EHR. This means that you will have to prove to the government that the EHR is being properly implemented according to their criteria. This criteria is detailed in a list of 25 requirements issued by the Department of Health and Human Services and is broken down into two sets of objectives and measures: a core set and a menu set. The core set consists of 15 non-negotiable objectives that all physicians must comply with. In the menu set, however, providers are free to choose 5 items from among a menu of 10 to implement. In all, this means physicians must meet 20 total objectives in order to demonstrate meaningful use. Fail to meet even one of these meaningful use requirements, and you become ineligible for the incentives. Now that you know how to qualify, let's find out how much of that $34 billion you can get your hands on. The answer to this depends on which incentive program you are eligible for. HITECH provides 2 separate programs, one for Medicare and one for Medicaid. With Medicare, physicians can earn up to 75% of their Medicare allowable charges, up to a maximum of $44,000. With Medicaid, close to $64,000 is available to physicians who see more than 30% of Medicaid patients. That number is reduced to 20% if you're a pediatrician. Keep in mind, this incentive is for each eligible provider within a practice. For example, have 5 providers on the Medicaid program, and your practice can receive up to $320,000 in incentive funds. Unfortunately, though, the HITECH Act is not just about handing out free money. Delay, or even decide not to implement a certified EHR, and you will be penalized. Not only will you lose out on the incentives, but the government will also begin decreasing your reimbursement rates by as early as 2012. So as you can see, at its core, the HITECH Act is not that complicated at all. Simply purchase and use a government-certified EHR, meet all of the meaningful use requirements, and you'll be eligible for the HITECH incentives. And on a final note, be aware of the fact that commercial insurance carriers are already talking about jumping on the meaningful use bandwagon and requiring providers to meet the same criteria for their pay-for-performance programs. Hopefully this has given you a clearer understanding of the HITECH Act and what it means to you and your practice. Over the next several years, EHRs will change the way we as healthcare providers keep patient records. Change is coming fast. Act now to make sure that you don't miss out on your portion of the HITECH money.
So did that explain what the HITECH Act is? It's just simply saying that Medicare and Medicaid pretty much requiring you to get an EHR system. Now, I could say a whole lot of things about this, but it can be fairly confusing, especially when you have no frame of reference. But I do want to give you an example. You know, you guys know I was a cardiology coder. And so one of the meaningful uses are the point systems, are the 20 objectives, whatever it was that they called it at any given time. They wanted 35% of all patients that came into the office, they wanted them to have aspirin prescribed. So every time aspirin is prescribed, or, you know, I said prescribed, but recommended to take aspirin, I'm sorry. They were, that was noted. That was one of those things that they could gain points. 10% take Coumadin. 25%, you understand what I mean? There's all these goals and objectives. Now I'm going to tell you, meaningful use always means, also means there has to be a medical reason for it. They can't give you Coumadin just because they want to meet their points, right? So it's all within a range and a scope where it's all medically necessary, and there's nothing shady about it. But they make this meaningful use and all of these things obtainable for a physician. Whenever I started coding, whenever I first came into the field, they were just moving over to everybody having electronic health records. So I actually started a clinic that was half and half. I think they're still half and half, but there's more on the EHR side now, so they can have part of that money. They can be part of that system. They can have, they can have those perks that go along with it. But you definitely have to be on point with your records because I can pop in and audit you, right? So any questions about meaningful use and HITECH Act? It's not complicated in what the definition is. It's exactly what it is. So when you see, EHR, meaningful use, HITECH, it all kind of goes together. All right, so who knows what HIPAA stands for? Somebody got an answer?
Is it Health Insurance Portability and Accessibility?
And Accountability Act.
I'm good.
Okay, so how many of you been through HIPAA training before?
I have.
Raise hands,
As a
feet,
CNA.
elbows. Once a year, right? If you work in a medical facility, it's once a year. So if the healthcare facility does something for HIPAA or anything once a year, how important do you think that is? Very important.
Very.
Okay. I'm going to give you a scenario and I want you to tell me if this is a HIPAA violation or not. This is a true story. And it was one of my previous students. And she called and told me about it. And she got in a lot of trouble because she was taught better. There was a mother that needed to have shot records for her child because he was starting school, but she could not get to the office until after closing time. So she was told by the office manager to take that shot record and put it into the mailbox on the front of the building. Is that allowed?
No.
Why?
Because that's a
Agree.
privacy issue.
What if it got in the wrong hands?
True.
Okay, so what should she have done?
She needs to be able to verify that the actual mother first.
Exactly. Because you don't know if
And then
grandma or grandpa, okay, she was told by her office manager that this is what she wanted her to do. And this had been done many times before. I told her if it would have been me, I would have said, I'm sorry, that's against HIPAA. I can't personally do that, but whatever you do on your own is you. But I will have no part of that. You can be very respectful, right? Because I'm sure that my young student thought, well, she's my boss, she's the office manager, she's telling me to do it. But she said she knew all along that it was wrong. There's a professional way to handle yourself without offending and without putting your hands on your hip and saying, let me tell you something, that's against HIPAA and I'm not going to be against HIPAA. But we don't have to handle ourselves that way, right? But we can take our hands off of that personal information and say, I'm sorry, I don't feel comfortable doing that. I think that's against HIPAA. And allow the office manager to make her choice whether she wants to, because, she wants to deal with that. Because I told my student, I said, what if the wrong person got that and it came back that someone broke the HIPAA law? Guess who broke it? You did. Because you put your hands on that information and you put it in an unsecure place without having someone sign the release. Can't do that. I don't care if you only have 25 patients, you have to follow HIPAA to the letter. You have to. It's the law. It's nothing to play with. So if you don't really know the ins and outs of HIPAA, I'm going to add that to your to-do list. Please get to know what HIPAA is. Get on YouTube. Watch videos on it. You guys see these cute little videos and these very informative videos that I find for you? I just go to YouTube. I love YouTube. It's a great place to find so many things. can help you in everything, okay? Let me check my list. Oh, I have one more question. Can they just get any old EHR out there? Shop and buy one and we're good. What does it have to be?
That's certified.
It must be government certified. So I can't go to Mom and Pop Smith's EHR Inc. and buy their EHR. I don't even know if there is anything like that, but always has to be government certified, especially where Medicare and Medicaid are concerned, right?
Right.
If you've dealt with Medicare and Medicaid in any sort of capacity, you know they don't play. And I don't know if you guys remember me telling you, when you get in your offices, a lot of times when they train you, they're going to train you Medicare specific, because if you code Medicare and you code it like that all the way across the board, you won't have any issues, because Medicare is very strict. Matter of fact, if you have issues with a claim paying from Medicare and you call to find out why it's denying, they won't even tell you. You got to figure it out yourself. Because they don't want to pay it, right? They're like, you're a big girl coder, you figure it out. We're not helping you. Melanie?
I see, so I've actually gotten on a bunch of Facebook groups, and I see that come across there a lot. Medicaid is denying it and send it back, and they're clueless, and they post that, like, what can they do to help, you know? So
Yeah.
they do have groups out there that'll help.
Yeah, I never had a lot of trouble with Medicaid. The biggest thing with Medicaid is like United Healthcare, like their call center is not in the United States anymore. So it, and sometimes if you call, they transfer you all the way around, Calling insurances was never, I don't think it's going to be anybody's favorite thing. Now, if you're doing authorizations, that's a different rodeo. But if you're doing something called accounts receivable and you're figuring out why claims did not go all the way around to get paid, and there's a stop in the middle and you have to find out why, really that's experience in asking your fellow coders. Y'all, before I left, if I couldn't figure something out, I would go to another. There was a lady who was the denial queen. I'm telling you, she knew what everything meant, and because that's all she had ever done for 15 years was work denials. So she was like the denial encyclopedia. But you can go and ask her. But it takes time to learn those things. But as long as you have a willing spirit and research, you guys don't shut down when you don't know the answer to something. Part of being a great billing and coding specialist is thinking outside the box. Go out and find it. It is there somewhere. You have to keep looking. You can't just shut down and say, well, I don't understand, so I just give up. How many times do you get frustrated with your work and say, I'm not going to get it, I'm never going to get it, and I'm going to move on? Can't do that. I fussed individually with students whenever they would leave a coding problem or a coding question blank. And let me tell you why. If you're coding a scenario in your medical facility and you can't find the code, are you just going to leave it blank? No. Get it wrong. Try again. You know what I mean? It's just, you cannot give up. You can't not answer. It's not an option not to know. It's okay not to know, but you have to go out and find it. So I think that that's one of the most important things to learn, not necessarily everything that you know, but how to go out and find what you need and having the drive to do that. So remember, research, 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 always putting tools in that toolbox. Every time you learn something new, you have a new tool, right? Y'all just got me on my soapbox today. Put a tool in your toolbox. All right, so that's it for today. Who learned something?
Robert.
Yes.